Next, I will start by explaining how to submit expected and unexpected events under the Execution tab. So let's become acquainted with the Execution tab. First of all, until we click on the button Edit at the top, we won't be able to submit any expected events or insert any unexpected events. What we can learn, though, before we click on Edit is that you will have to select each individual line, as this is what determines what events or what reasons or dates you're going to report for that specific event. Notes can also be added to that specific event by selecting the tab Notes and making sure we have selected the correct event here at the top. So let's perform a submission of an expected event. The first thing we'll do is click on Edit. Once we click on Edit, we see that now the buttons for Reported Event and Inserted Event are now available, as well as the fields under Execution are now available to add information to. So if we simply select one of the lines, let's say everything goes as planned and the events just need to be reported as OK, we can simply select one of the lines and click on Report Event. If we do so, the status will change, and now the departure shows with a green square here saying that the event has been reported. The actual event date will populate, and it's always based on the date you're actually submitting the event and the time that you're submitting the event. And this is for our departure event from Frankfurt Airport. We haven't added any details to the field at the bottom, but still we always have time to add information to these events. And then we can always click on Save. So far we haven't added any event reason. This is just an expected event, so we could simply leave it blank or add any event reason we wish to add. The same thing for the actual event date. Even if we do change the date, the departure will be saved as an expected event, although the actual event date will be the one you submit. If you want to add any notes to this event, these notes can be added by clicking on the tab Note, clicking on Insert, and adding the text type here. First, from selecting from the drop-down, the options that are available to us, depending on the type of text we want to add. The language, if we click on the drop-down, we can also see the number of languages that TM offers. The internal text box, if this note is simply for the TM planners using TM and not to be shared with the external freight forwarders. The content field, where we can add more information. So in this case, for example, nothing to report. And once we click on Save, we will see that the created by and created on date will be populated automatically. So this note, as well as any data that we could have added under the specific expected event departure, will be added here. If by any chance we want to insert an unexpected event, what we would do instead is click on Insert Event, and that will automatically show us in the status an icon that represents the unexpected event. Here we can make a selection between any of the unexpected events, for example, damage or delay, which could be a very common unexpected event in airport travel. So if we select delay, we can write the reason here. For example, delay in transportation of troops. Can be as specific as you want to. This is just an example. This occurred on the actual event date and at the time that we could indicate, so it could be basically much earlier than the actual time that we submitted for the event. And we could also add a note to that delay. Insert, select, and add the reason why here as well. Flat tire, and then just click on Save to make sure we save the information. The delay event will show below here and will be linked to a specific date and time. Now in this case I did not indicate the location, so this can still be added later on and say that this was at the departure location, and then we can still click on Save one more time, and that will change the delay information. Now basically the Unexpected events can also be used, if we click on Insert Event, to report, for example, the departure and arrival of different chalks. Let's say that there is a forwarding order created with a number of passengers, let's say 600 passengers, but only 200 passengers per plane. For example, you'll have to report the different departures and arrivals. Let's say the plane is only including 200 passengers at a time. You'll have to submit events for the first 200, then the next batch of 200, and the following batch of 200. And how is that done? That is done by inserting an unexpected event and selecting from the available options the chalk arrival or chalk departure. So even though it shows us an unexpected event, that would be the way to submit departure and arrival by chalk in TM. So we would select that specific event, also the actual event date of departure, the actual time, and the location in this case. We're selecting Frankfurt. The same as we've done for the other events, we can also add the information through the Execution tab, which, as we can see, the location is here, the date, the event reason, if there's anything to add, as well as the notes, all related to the chalk departure. Once we click on Save, the chalk departure will show as one more event. Now in this case, it went all the way to the bottom. Remember, you have a scroll button here, so if sometimes you do not see the action you have just performed, it's there. So chalk departure would show here, and we would do the same action, insert event, for the chalk arrival. Now again, scroll up, select from the drop down, and here we could check the chalk arrival option, and again insert the information for the location, in this case Kinshasa. We select that option, we make sure that the actual date could be the same and the time much later, so we could eventually just make the changes that we need to by chalk by selecting insert event and reporting it as an unexpected event. This is how we would be submitting arrival and departure by chalk, if we're not simply submitting the arrival and departure. This would be the case if there are several chalks and we have to report events separately. If in the case that only 200, let's say, passengers were flying, there was only one flight with 200 passengers in it, we would simply have to submit the events for departure and arrival once, and those would be the expected events that are already on screen when we began the video tutorial. But in the case that there are more than the 200, there are 600, let's say, we would have to report the arrival and departure of the chalks separately. Once we have already added the information, the key information, we would click on Save, and automatically TM would display all of the events that we've submitted. So far, if we want to learn how to interpret what we just have done, at the bottom we would have our unexpected events for chalk arrival and chalk departure. We have our expected event here for departure. So let's say if there was only one chalk for 200 passengers here, we would have simply had to report one departure and one arrival at destination, and then finally the proof of delivery document. We would have to also submit this event, and in the case that we have several chalks, we would have to just report them as unexpected events. If, let's say, there were unexpected events like delays, as in this case we do not have any location for this delay. We could also add this unexpected event by clicking here and saying that the delay this time happened at arrival. We can add that later on and save again. Now as we scroll up, we see that we would still have two events that we would have to submit.